back to my channel. I'm Tanya, for those of you that are new here, and I am a watercolor artist and a furniture painter. So you're going to be seeing both type of tutorials on this channel, but today I thought I would show you how to paint an Easter bunny since March is right around the corner and I am so ready for it. So I thought we would have fun today. So let's jump right in. Okay, so I've got my Arches watercolor paper. I've got a couple different brushes here. I've got a size 0, 6, and 12. I think those are the 3 brushes I'm going to be using, but I'll let you know as I'm switching off. I've got my 2 cups of water, one for cool colors and one for warm colors. And I've got my Winsor Newton watercolors here. I'll let you know as I go along which colors I'm using, because as of right now, I have no idea what colors I'm going to be using. All right, so I am going to lightly sketch out my rabbit. You can look up any images you want. You don't have to follow along with me. You could do any rabbit you want. But I'm going to make this one kind of looking at me. His big ears, and I'm just kind of going off memory of what a rabbit looks like. But like I said, you could look up any image you want and then just slowly just start sketching him in. And if it's not perfect, you can erase lightly. I suggest you not erase with the pink eraser. Get yourself a good white eraser. You just don't want any pink to come off onto your white paper. And just be sketchy about it. You can always erase later. I know their eyes are kind of on the sides. Right now he's looking goofy. And he's got that. Chubby cheeks. You can make your rabbit as chubby as you want. And I'm going to make his little body kind of sing this way. I am also going to be making him kind of a whitish gray rabbit, but you can do, brown, black, multicolor, whatever you want. Okay. And that's all I'm going to do as far as drawing. Okay, so now I am going to go in with my 6. And I'm also going to go in with Payne's Gray. So I'm going to put a little water on my Payne's Gray. And I'm going to put it off on my palette. And I want him to be a light gray, not a dark gray. so like a light gray and white rabbit. So I'm gonna put enough water on there. So as you can see, I went from dark Payne's gray all the way to light. So you kind of want a little bit of a variation on your palette. And where the rabbit is white, I am gonna keep it white. You're gonna leave that part of the paper, leave it alone. So just kind of go in where you want your shadows to be and where you want a little bit of his gray to be. I want a little bit of gray under his head. And maybe on this side of the body, so it kind of looks like he's shadowed on the left side. But like I said, I want to leave some of him white. I think white rabbits are beautiful, so. And then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna shade under his little paws a little bit. And you don't really see this paw too much because he's kind of laying on it. And then this one you see a little bit more. And I'm gonna shadow where this front paw is. I'm gonna shadow like his tummy area and where his little leg, his back leg are. And at this point, I've just used Payne's gray. Okay, all right. I'm gonna let that part of him dry. I'm gonna move on to the head now. So I'm gonna start shadowing in some of his ears. And I'm going to go around his eye. And then I'm going to leave his nose a little bit lighter. So I'm going to take the Payne's gray and go around his little cheeks and his little nose area. And I want his cheeks to be a little bit more white. So I'm going to leave those lighter gray. And I'm going to come in later and darken up some of these areas, but this is just the first coat of paint. Now what I'm going to do is, so see how I had my Payne's gray gradated here from the dark to the light? Well, now I'm going to kind of come in towards the middle and use more of a medium tone and just kind of go in some of my areas where I want it to be a little bit darker. And I'm just kind of pouncing on my brush here. I'll go around his little nose again. And if you think that you did a little bit too much and it's a little too dark, just get it wet and dab it off a little bit. You can use a paper towel or you can come in with a clean brush and just kind of pick it up and then dab it off on your paper towel. and just keep going until you get the lightness that you want. All right, I'm going to let his face dry a little bit, and I'm going to come back in over here, still with just Payne's Gray. And like I said, you can use any colors you want. You do not have to follow along with what I'm doing. And I'm going to shadow up a little bit underneath his face, just to have his head pop from the painting a little bit more. I am going to darken up under his little neck area. And then just with a clean brush, you're going to blend that out. And then just start going over the middle of his ears. And if you want to leave a little bit of white for highlights, you definitely could do that. And I wouldn't just make it solid at this point, because you're going to want to go in and have some variations of this color. So go in and give it a first coat. See how I left a little bit of white? Do the same thing to the other ear. Normally the inside of the ears that are closest to his head are a little bit darker, and it gets a little bit lighter as it goes out. All right, and then I'm just going to dab a little bit more of that color down towards the bottom of the ears, where it's probably a little bit darker. And that's all I'm going to do for the ears right now. All right, I'm going to start going in and working his little paws a little bit. So I'm going back to my Payne's Gray, and I'm going to give a little bit of a shadow under his paws here, where his little claws would be. So his face is pretty dry right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my size 0 brush, and I'm going to give him kind of brownish eyes. So what color did I pick up? I picked up a burnt umber. So I'm going to get that saturated. And I'm going to come in. Now they also have these nice big pupils. So I'm just going to come in and just do like the outside of his eye. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And then I'm going to take a little of the Payne's Gray, and I'm going to do more of that pupil. Now you can leave a little bit of white for a highlight in his eye. So if you want to leave a couple little spots of white. I'm going to start on his little cheeks again. I'm going to put a little bit of shadowing around his mouth and under his chin. So all I'm doing right now is I'm lifting it up with a clean brush and I'm dabbing it off on my paper towel. Okay. So I'm going to let that part dry before I make his little whiskers and his little mouth. So I'm going to go back to the ears, and I am going to fill in the rest of his ear with a light pink. And I want the middle part of his ear down here where we made it darker before. I want to keep that the darkest. So I put down a little bit of the paint and then I keep going over it with a clean brush and picking some of it back up. Because I just want it to be a light pink at the tips of his ears. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry and then we're gonna darken in the middle of his ears again, but we gotta let that dry. All right, so right now I think what I am going to do is I'm gonna put maybe kind of like a darker gray or a greenish, maybe like an olive green color under him. So let's see, I'm going to pick up my permanent green, my sap green, and let's see, and then maybe a little bit of my cad yellow. So I get this kind of olivey green. Add some water to it. And just make sure your rabbit's nice and dry down here before you do that, or you're gonna end up with a green rabbit. So I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna kind of just put a little bit of this green tone under him. With the yellow and just add a little bit here and there under the rabbit. I just kind of feather that out. And I think I want his little ears to be a little darker. So I'm going to go back in. And I'm going to bring in a little bit more gray down here. Put in a little bit more of that pink. Now that we had darkened up those little areas with the Payne's Gray before, you can add a little more pink to it. And if you want, you can add a little bit of Payne's Gray with your pink. Darken them up at the same time. And I'm going to feather it out. the darker areas. All right. I'm going to bring in a little bit around his leg too. Makes him look a little bit more textured. You can also dab a little bit on his face too if you want. Give it a little bit more texture on his face. But not too much. You just kind of want to break up a little bit of the smooth look. Okay. I'm going to darken up around his ears a little bit. Right under his nose, like that. Then you can blend it up if you want. And I still want to make this a little bit darker around his mouth. There. Darken up his nose one more time. All right, I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna make his whiskers. Okay, so I'm just gonna take Payne's Gray with my smallest brush I have, and I'm just gonna make, you don't wanna go crazy with whiskers. I'm gonna make maybe 3 or 4 on each side. And then I'm going to turn my page around just so I get that same brush stroke. Now that one whisker turned out a little bit too thick for me. So I'm just going to go back in and I'm going to pick up some of that gray with just water. Lighten up my whisker there a little bit. There, then it doesn't look so thick. So all you want to do is just add a little water to it. And then you can do the same thing to all of them, is just add a little bit of a damp brush, just soften them up a little bit, otherwise they're just too stark, too perfect. You just want to soften them up a little bit. So I'm gently just using the tip of my brush with just a little bit of water, and I'm going over them a little bit. And then you can make them longer if you want to also. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of Payne's Gray to my nose. I think they also have little whiskers that come off the eyes, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to make some little whiskers coming off the eyes. And these here are just a little bit too dark, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to lighten them up. Dab it off. Perfect. There you go. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you liked it and learned a little something. And for more up-to-date videos, please subscribe to this channel. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day. Bye.